Okay, so this episode is called I Got Dropped. The drop season is just around the corner. So there are particular times of year where massive amounts of people get dropped. Basically what happens is pilot season rolls around, and for pilot season we pick up anyone and everyone we possibly can, because pilots can, well, not any, you have to still have your stuff together. Don't think that like this is your time, but someone who's on the cusp can likely find representation for pilot season. I'm going to assume that they're probably doing a verbal with everyone and hip pocketing, because that's just a lot of paper to print out to give you a contract only to drop you 3 months later. Um, so people will pick up, certain types of clients that they need, that they know from experience is helpful for pilot season, and we submit you and we hope that, somebody gets it, somebody sticks. Most of you will end up getting dropped right after pilot season if you didn't book anything, and that's just, it is what it is. And so if you did end up getting dropped, don't worry, it's not the end of the world. It just means that right now wasn't the right time for you to be with that particular agency. And I guess I'll take the more myopic view of why I drop people. So I always harp about, the four basic things: headshot, resume, training, and reel. These are the four things that I look at when I'm evaluating a potential client, and these are things that I'll look at as that client is with me, as I watch them either grow or not grow. Remember, my whole thing is about forward progression. You have to be making steps forward. So if you come to me and you're just getting started and I say, okay, we need to get you into improv school, you need to go to either UCB, Groundling, Second City, or IO West, I would expect that, somewhere by month 3, you have completed one of those schools. Giving the excuse of, I don't have any money, just doesn't work. You're going to get dropped. You really had no business seeking representation. You need to have an actor's fund, aka a savings account that is designed specifically for you to spend money on essential items such as headshots, training, and your reels. Because if you don't know how to edit, someone's got to cut that together for you. And this is where you need to have an actor's fund. Also, importantly, you need to have your actor's fund for renewing your passport, getting emissions done on your car, and even paying your dues, or joining a union, any union. It doesn't even just mean SAG-AFTRA. It could be AGVA or Equity. It doesn't matter. You're gonna have to pay to get into those, and so having liquid cash available or a line of credit is helpful with respect to your actor's fund. Acting is a career that is a continuing education-based career, which means you're always going to be in school at some point. So what I try to do is to maximize your funds and direct you initially to places that will put decent names on your resume and give you a decent enough training to where when you come out of there, you halfway know what you're doing. You're by no means, the best at it, but you're definitely a lot better than you were when I met you a few months prior, if that makes sense. So let's just talk about the way I evaluate materials. I think that'll be helpful to everyone. Just because I have a track record with this. People come back and tell me, yay, this worked, I got an agent. What I look for with your headshot is it good? There are things such as, is there a tree sticking out of your head? Trees and shrubs. Is there stuff behind you? Does it look like there's a person there behind you? Do I see cars? Is there a parking lot? Do I see your patio door? Do I see your apartment building complex? Okay, you should be taking, professional headshots. You can shoot stuff at your house if someone knows how to shoot, but then that means you're going to need to do an extremely low depth of field. If that doesn't make any sense to you, then that means you're not a photographer, so don't ask. So what I'm looking for is a decent headshot. I can't really quantify it. You already know that I recommend Vani Poirier, so if you go look at her portfolios, then you'll see an example, or several examples, of what good headshots look like, okay? I look for, is it in focus? A lot of times, somehow, you guys end up sending over headshots that are blurry, and I don't understand why you don't see it. And if you don't see it, then it's probably time to go to the eye doctor because you're blurry. And you definitely can't be a focus puller for the camera union because all your shots are blurry. I look for, the eyes, I look for the teeth, I look for the characters that I need, if you're average Jane, average Joe, if you're doctor, nurse, lawyer, professional, if you're hipster. I'm getting a lot of people that think that, commercials are about being quirky and throwing your mouth open, and I made a joke in an email to my clients that was just like, that's a whole nother type of entertainment that I do not rep you guys for, aka adult entertainment. Don't have your mouth so far open that we think you are a fluffer, okay? So just, and be normal too. Some of you guys are getting ridiculous with the amount of quirk that's coming through. In case you haven't noticed, a lot of these commercials are saying they want real people, and we use that in quotes. Obviously, if they wanted real people, they wouldn't be posting on casting sites for actors, but you just have to think outside the box here. Maybe you need to tone down the airbrush. Maybe you need to tone down the makeup. Maybe you need to look more natural looking, or maybe look a little bit more disheveled, so that you look like a real average person. So for my roster, we want you to have 4 to 6 different looks. Because if you do the 4 to 6 different looks right, it can cover a multitude of things of the average person, the tech store employee, like the Best Buy, Target, Sprint, Verizon kind of thing. You have your upscale or business person, so most people will have, a shot in a suit. And then we have, our standard issue millennial hipster. And that's like 4 right there that you can knock out easily. Some of it is about, just changing up what you're wearing, and sometimes it's about embodying that character. That character might have their hair up instead of their hair down. You might have your bangs out instead of hidden. The males, they might grow scruff versus being clean shaven, or you might put on a pair of glasses. So there's lots of different things, and it's okay to be edgy too, because that's coming back into style too. So with your headshots, just, consider different looks. Commercials is something that's, about like face. It's a look and a personality if you end up getting lines. So you just want to make sure that you're getting good headshots. I can't tell you how many times I've had people go to these places that are not good headshot photographers, where they're overexposed to where they're just so bright I can barely see them. If the question is natural versus flash photography, it all just depends on you and your skin tone, because sometimes some skin tones reflect back heavily, and so if the indoor flash may not be the best choice, so you might want to go out into the shade for the natural looks where they bounce in a little bit of sunlight for you, okay? So, if you've signed with me and I've been saying, hey, you're not going out, we need to get new headshots and revamp your look, and you still don't do it, then yeah, you're probably not going to make it through the next purge, because that's what I call mine. Resume. I am a stickler for a properly formatted resume. In case you haven't noticed, I've made like 6 videos about them. So you might want to make sure that that thing is pristine, okay? I've caught people who allege they've gone to Terry Berlin but then misspelled her name, and so I even emailed them. I was like, did you really go? Because it's spelled this way. So it's like, if you're going to lie about where you went, double check how to spell their name, and then, prior to that, don't lie. Just spend the money, go get the education, you need it. You want to make sure your resume is in the proper 3-column format, and make sure you've got film, TV, commercial, and then lead on down to then theater, and then training from there. Make sure that you're listing the type of training in the first column, and then if you want to do 2 or 3 columns for training, then you can just go with the name of the instructor and the school in the 3rd column. I've always said it's vice versa, but just to keep it uniform, just do type of training, name of instructor, name of school. Be careful about your MFA and BFA courses. No, they don't go on there, because otherwise then you'll have like 12 training classes on there, and it's not. No, you went to school for theater. This is film and TV. It's a whole different animal, and a lot of you have learned that the hard way when you come out here and you don't know how to do anything. So just waddle on over to UCB or Groundlings or Second City or IO West, and after that just waddle on over to Killian's, okay? The reel. So when it comes to commercials, you can have two different types of reels. You can have either a commercial reel, which, obviously is a list of the commercials that you've been in. Not even a list, it's a compilation of actual clips of commercials that you've been in. Be careful that you're not just doing like 2 to 3 second cameos and jumping from clip to clip to clip. Like, just kind of make it work. But what I will say is, don't do a title card. Just get right to it, because we only have 15 seconds. So, if I go to look at something and what I'm finding now is I'm scrubbing in 30 seconds into your reel and you still haven't spoken, we have a problem. We need to see you and hear you. Okay, so try to make sure you have something where you're talking a little bit. That helps too. Now, I have had one person that did one that was just so beautifully artistic. She's the only person that I'll ever say, like, wow, you can have a reel without speaking. Like, her reel was just amazing. And she actually had taken the time and put it together herself. But when it comes to reels, we're doing like 30-second clips now. I used to say, okay, the master reel would be like 2.5 minutes. But honestly, now it's turning into like, just give me 3 30-second clips that convey certain things. You might have one that's nothing but comedy. You might have one where you're crying. And then you might have another one where it's just a dramatic knockout, breakout scene. Now, what I need you to do now is be honest with yourself. And here's what I mean by that. You know when your reel is utter garbage. Okay? Don't just put up a reel just to put up a reel to have something. Because that reel can do more harm than, like, you can screw up everything with a shitty reel. Your headshots mean nothing, your training means nothing, because your reel is your visual portfolio. It speaks to your range, it speaks to your acting ability. And so a lot of times people will rush and just put up some stuff and they think, oh, at least I have something. Wrong. Don't do it. And this is why, I put a note on my sheet that was like Vine versus acting reels. Some people think that the stuff they're filming for Vine, those little things you're doing to get views and likes or whatever it is you're trying to do, will suffice for your reel. Well, what you're forgetting is that sometimes your reels may have vulgarities in it that casting doesn't want to see. You need to be very careful. I had a client who was Muslim, and she decided to do a clip about flying some planes into a building, and I told her to burn that immediately and never show anyone. And came back to me from another client that, yeah, she showed it to him, and then he was like, yeah, I agree, she should delete that and burn it and never show it to anyone. So it's like, well, obviously she didn't listen. There are certain things that, we can laugh about a lot of things, right? Our comedians are really great about that, but there are certain things that they're just not going to go over with you as an unknown. They're not going to go over well, okay? So just think about it. If you're going to desecrate someone or something or some sort of symbol, just don't do it. Leave that. You just don't even put it to tape. Just don't. It just doesn't go over well. And then you just want to be careful with certain language and, and things you say and do. Nobody wants to open up a clip and it's just a whole bunch of N-word. Like, you're not a rapper. So stop. Okay. So these are the 4 things that I look at. If we're getting somewhere where you're not making any strides, then yeah, you're gonna have to go. Now, reasons you might have gotten dropped is you didn't go out. So let's try this. Let's try reasons you might have been dropped. So in addition to what I've talked about, it's lack of auditions. It could be personalities don't match. Okay, you might have an issue with the way your rep talks to you. Your rep might have an issue with the way you talk to them. You both might have issues with being just, human beings full of emotions, and it could just be a bad day. There are certain things like that where just, certain working relationships just don't work. One of the other reasons that you could be dropped, besides the lack of auditions, is you could actually be getting a lot of auditions and you could be getting callbacks, but you're not booking. So I want to pause here and talk about the not booking aspect of it. And I'm just going to give you a little overhead example. So overhead is, money spent to conduct business. And so you could be looking at, with Los Angeles office rent alone and insurance and postage and utilities and all that jazz, I'm going to start with a nice number of $3,000 a month, okay? Just for the business to operate. Okay, those are your operating expenses. We'll use non-union as an example. Normal base pay for a non-union commercial is around $500. There may or may not be a buyout. Your commission rate with your rep could be either 10% up to the state maximum of 25%. To give you an idea, if they are a SAG-AFTRA franchise, then they need to do 10%. That's all they can do. Okay. The state allows for 25, so it typically was 10 to 15% or 20% non-union. Print is automatic 20%, so that's why we have up to 25%. For the sake of this, we shall use standard issue 10% for numbers. Okay, so say you booked a project, you owe your rep 10%. Okay, that is a whopping $50. Okay, now let's say it took you 6 months of them working day and night, spending $3,000 a month on you. Over the course of 6 months, they have spent $18,000. You made them $50. So this is kind of why commercials also are a numbers game. One, it's because you just want to have diversity and different looks, because commercials are so interesting. Sometimes they're extremely disrespectful, like I mentioned with the legal age thing, and some of the stuff they do. I had to apologize to a client because, the other day she went out for acting, and then on this particular day she was going out to, wear a bikini and some heels, and they were going to have her, turn around so they could check out the goods. And I'm like, I'm sorry, this is objectifying you, but it is a national commercial. It's one of those things where just sometimes it really sucks. But I just want people to sort of, keep this in mind, that your reps are spending money because there is a cost of conducting business. And that's wonderful when you book. It's great. But I really want you guys to visually see what's going on here. That your reps are working really hard and putting out a lot of money that they're not recouping back. And so, this is about return on investment, ROI. That's what business, investment, that's what business is about, return on your investment. They went and they spent that money and they're hoping to get it back. Now, obviously, if you have 20 people booking this, then that goes over a lot better than just one person booking per month. But really, this is all about return on investment. That's the easiest way to describe, why you got dropped. Was the money that I spent on you worth it? Were you, someone that I'm looking forward to continuing to develop and grow? Because for me, I specialize in talent development, so I'm just bleeding money out every month just because I believe in you, and you may not go out, you may not book. I have my guy Corey, he's been with me since day one, and we don't always book. He goes out, but we don't always get it, and that's, part of the deal. Have I recouped my investment? No, but I genuinely care for that guy, and so, we work together. And I think that's what you guys need to realize, is that it is about a partnership, and it's literally you're joining a company that's spending money on you, and I don't get to bill you for all of this overhead and times. You might have an agency that does, and honestly, I don't blame them, because we spend a lot of money on you guys, just trying to pay for subscription fees, maintaining that office, that presentation, and all that stuff, postage and, networking and dinners and lunches and all this stuff that we're trying to do to push you and get you where you need to go. But you just have to look at it very objectively here with the numbers. Now the flip side is yeah, once you've booked, a series regular roll, yeah, there's probably $1,000 a week rolling in, so then, your investment is worth it. But when you're, booking commercials are nickels and dimes. Now, SAG can be different because the base pay is, in the 600s, but if that commercial doesn't run past that first airing period, which I believe is like 13 weeks, there's not going to be a lot of money trickling in. So, that 62.75 might be all we ever see. So just keep that in mind before your little ego starts running around trying to, tell folks what to do. Because I do hear horror stories of how there's an actor at a particular agency who books a lot, and he just gives the poor little assistants grief when they call him on the phone and ask him to do anything. They might be like, hey, can you update your headshot? We'd like a newer headshot for you. And he's just like, go screw yourselves. I make you guys a lot of money. And he probably does. That's why they allow that. I don't allow that. I don't care how much money you have made me or have not made me. You're not about to be a jerk. When I call to ask you to do something you're supposed to do. So that's the difference between me and someone else. Okay, so hopefully this is helpful to you. Hopefully it gives you a little bit better perspective as to, how things work, so to speak. I didn't go into great detail, but just know that initially, until you start booking regularly and booking things with a particular rate of pay, just know that your agency is spending money on you, and you're not paying them anything, right? Because everything you're doing is commission-based. It's not fee-based. If it were fee-based, like, one of those background talent booking places, then yeah, this wouldn't even be a problem, because the fee would be commensurate with, your portion of expenses. But that's not the case for those of us who are licensed talent agencies, okay? So be kind.